Alright, what's up guys? Fallen Winter here, and we are here with a PRISM deck profile now that all the new support has come out and we've had the time to finish building decks now that we had the case and all of that. So starting off, we've got Sapphire, which is the new starter. She has Forerunner, and when your grade 3 or greater PRISM Vanguard is placed on Vanguard Circle, so strides also work. When that happens, you choose one of your PRISM rearguards, you bounce back to your hand. You can also try running Bermuda Triangle Cadet Shizuku, the grade 3 searcher, just because this deck needs grade 3s, so it comes in handy, really useful. Trigger lineup is pretty basic. It's just all the PRISM units for the most part. Just because there's some cards you need PRISM Counterblast. So 4 PRISM Heal, 4 of the draw triggers, and then 8 crit. Specifically 4 of the new crit, because the new crit is pretty good at bouncing and doing a bunch of different things. Its ability is if it's bounced, you can Counterblast 1, reveal this card from your hand, put it back into the deck. You search a card with Vert, Rosa, or Clear, and well, all of this is as long as you have a PRISM Vanguard. But yeah, you search out one of those three, or a card with one of those 3 names, call her to rearguard, and then if you would like, you can also bounce her back to your hand. So this allows for attack extension. This allows for calling cards out to rearguard, like grade 1 clear if you're running it. I don't, but for instance, call it out, bounce it back to your hand, and then you can activate the clear skill to Soul Blast 1 and give plus 4,000 to a unit. Overall, pretty basic setup. If you want to drop the draw triggers, you can, and instead just run more crits. Just they won't be prisms. If you're not too worried about running out of PRISM Counterblast specifically, or you can manage your damage zone efficiently enough that you don't forget and you're paying attention to what you're flipping over and all that kind of stuff. Crits might work better just because this has an okay amount of defense and draw power, so you can probably get away with it. For the grade 1 lineup, we've got the perfect guards. Currently I'm running 3 dual PRISM perfect guards and then 1 Ellie, because Tommy 808 Rodriguez has the other one. So until I get that, I'm just running this. You can also try running Kukuri, the G unflip perfect guard, just because if you're scared you're gonna run a Counterblast or whatever, that's fine. I don't think I've run into too many problems with countercharge in this deck, so it shouldn't be that bad. But yeah, it should be alright with the dual PRISM perfect guards, just for the name for damage. Next, running 3 Shandy. Not super important, but also really useful for the vert turns, because your vert stride needs a grade 3 to ride into after you attack, which means if you stride using grade 3, you need another grade 3 in your hand on top of that just to activate the skill. With Shandy, you can discard something other than your grade 3, so it just comes in handy as the backup if you've only got 1 grade 3 in your hand and you have 1 of her. We've got 4 late, just because this is your counter charge engine and also your soul charge engine, plus she is really good at giving rearguard columns just ridiculous amounts of power boosts and stuff like that. Her ability is when she's bounced, if you have a Vanguard or PRISM, you countercharge, soul charge 1 each, and then you choose a unit. It gets plus 4,000 until end of turn. And afterwards, she cannot be normal called, so you can only superior call her off your skills for the rest of the turn after you have used her skill. And then lastly, I'm running 4 Emerald currently. although I might drop this down to less just because limb break removers, I want to test those out. But for now, running 4 of her just because she also can make power stacks really dumb if set up properly. Her ability is when she's bounced, back to your hand from rearguard circle, you choose 2 other rearguards or prism in its name, and if the 2 cards, if 2 cards are bounced with this skill, you can choose a unit that gets plus 5,000. Really easy way to get plus 5 to something. You just bounce this, choose like these 2. If you have a rearguard column still active over here, then you just bounce those if you don't need them. Suddenly this column is now a 21 column if it hit for 16. Or even more if you activated a late off of that and like some other skills or something. For instance, cards like Rosa going into your grade 2 lineup. Her ability is when another rearguard is bounced back to your hand. If you have a limit break for Vanguard, she gets plus 3,000 for Soul Blast 1, and you also choose another unit and it also gets plus 3,000 until the end of turn. So her paired up with late means if you choose the same unit for both of their skills, after late gets bounced, you're countercharging 1, you're not paying the Soul Blast because you're soul charging 1, Soul Blasting 1, and then you give a unit plus 7. So a 9k booster or a 9k rearguard by itself can swing for 16 if you give both skills to that one rearguard, which is really handy. Next we have for Celtic, because Celtic is pretty much Roan for Prisms. Vanguard or rearguard skill on hit counterblast 1 Prism, or on hit to Vanguard counterblast 1 Prism unit, so each special counterblast. Choose one of your rearguards, any rearguard, bounce it, and then you draw a card. So just really easy way to get pressure and get free cards if they're forced to let you hit. And lastly, Spica, because Spica is a great way to attack extend. Just GB1, it's an Amber clone. When it's boosted and attacks Vanguard, counterblast 1, choose one of your other rearguards, bounce back your hand, choose 1 card from your hand, call it back out, and it gets plus 3 until end of turn. So, yeah, you choose up to 1 card. So you can bounce a card just to bounce it, but usually you want to call something back out just because it becomes a... Usually if you call out the 9k, it becomes a 12k attacker, which means you get the intercept back, and you also can swing for 12, which hits most things. On 3s, pretty simple. I run 4 verts because you want to try doing the break ride plays with the new vert stride. Running 2 Labrador because she is great for when you need to go into like crit aggro plays off of vert, or just if you're stuck on something early and they rushed, or if you run the limb break remover grade 1, just ride her, call limb break remover, call 3 more rearguards onto field on your attack, and you're swinging for 21,000 at least with an extra critical. Really strong. She also has the counterblast 1 ability where you each special counterblast 1 card from your damage zone, and you choose a rearguard with Prism, and you bounce back to your hand. Probably not going to be using this a lot, but you can combo that with the Emerald, where you counterblast 1, bounce her, and if you have 2 other rearguards you called out, like a late or some other thing like that, you just bounce those 2 rearguards, and Emerald activates, you just give whatever plus 5,000, so Vanguard, and then you can do it again if you want, call those 2 rearguards back out, call Emerald back out, bounce her using one of your counterblasts, and then you get another 5,000 power to whatever you... So, not really a play you're always going to do, but just the options there. And then lastly, the new grade 3 Garnet. which is kind of your more defensive Vanguard, just because by going into her you can draw more cards, because her limit break, while having the same type of skill requirements, by one attacking you call out 3 rear guards, prisms, up to 3, and if you called 3 out, she gets your skill. It's limit break 4 as well, so same requirements. The only difference is that instead of 10,000 power and a crit, she just gets a limit break 5 skill, unfortunately. But limit break 5 continuous ability that she gets an extra dive check. So yeah, when she swings, she can potentially, if you are at limit break 5 and don't heal out of it, you're swinging for 3 drive checks, which is fantastic. If you swung with the vert, got the ride into break ride of the other vert onto this, and you're at limit break 5 because you drew a card off a break ride, you're getting an extra drive check off of this, you're pretty much plussing off of your stride restand play, which is always a good thing, unless you're close to stacking out. Oh, one thing to mention is that she has her secondary ability, which is when a rearguard is bounced back to your hand, you can counterblast 1 card with Prism in its card name, and then you choose a unit, and it gets plus 5,000 to end a turn. So, paired with a bunch of other skills, she can be used insanely defensively, and you can just stack power on her with minimal effort as long as you have the G Guardian Leona. Moving on to the G Zone. We've got 4 Labrador. She's just really a good first stride option, just because both her and Vert are first stride able, but the chances are you're not going to have a limit break on first stride unless they aggroed really hard or you have limit break movers. So she's a good go-to stride if you need to. And she's probably going to be the only active option unless you have limit break movers and stuff like that, or you have a really weird situation. Her ability is just nice pressure, because you flip a copy of herself over as an act. If you have a Prism Vanguard, you choose any of your 2 rear guards, doesn't have to be Prism, and those units get plus 5,000, and after they attack or boost, at the end of that battle, they bounce back to your hand. So if you need to be safe, like playing against a retired deck or something like that, you just play defensively and stuff like that. Call 2 rear guards, stride to this, flip a copy over, give those 2 rear guards powers. So if that's a second column, that will swing for 26, or you can split powers depending on how you want to do your turn. But overall, 10k power anywhere, split up into 5s is really nice. And you can probably activate a bunch of other skills too, depending on what you bounced. So that's always a nice thing. Then we've got Olivia's, because Olivia is a good card. She's one of your backup finishers, just because swinging with a really easy requirement, it just counterblast 1, flip copy over, and bounce at least 3 cards with different names, and you're going to be swinging with a critical. And you get attack extension off her skill. If you don't know, her full skill is counterblast 1, flip a copy of her over. When she attacks, you choose up to 5 of your rear guards, and if all of those rear guards have different names, you bounce all of them, and then if you bounce 3 or more using the skill, you call up to 2 rear guards in different rows. So you can only call here and here, or here, anywhere back here, and anyone up here. And then she gets a critical. So just really nice pressure card. Swing with a crit, call rear guards back out onto your field to make another attack, and depending on what you called back out or what you bounced off your field, you can probably activate a few skills and give whatever column you called back out extra power, which is amazing, just because you can swing like with a bunch of attacks with, before you swing with Olivia, bounce some cards. She swings with the extra crit for like 26 if you keep your booster, and then this rearguard column might be able to gain, like, if it's a 16, turn into like a 32, 26 something column. If you check a critical, then you've got a huge lane on top of the other huge lane with critical, so you did it twice. Pretty staple in like all the decks. Then we've got Sunshine Vert, the new Stride. They're kind of fake restander 5 drive checks unless you go into Garnet where you get 6 drive checks. Her ability being at Limit Break 4, at the end of the battle that it attacks, you can flip a copy of her over in your G zone. Discard 3 cards. She moves back into the G zone. You can choose up to 2 of your rear guards, your Prism rear guards, bounce them, and then you choose a grade 3 from your hand and you ride it. Grade 3 Prism from your hand and ride it as stand. So because this Stride unit moved into the G zone before riding and you actually rode, you can get the break ride off of this. So if you Stride into Vert with this and then you attack with it and you move this back and then you ride something, you have break ridden. So this will become a 21. You can bounce up to 2 rear guards and you draw a card. Really nice play if you're going for hand advantage, or sorry, just want to activate skills, especially if you're trying to go for the limit break on one of the units where you need 3 rear guards bounced to call 3 more back out. That's it for the main Strides. If you want, you can drop 2 of the Vert for Somni, or if you want one of the other on-bounce ones, so Elprina or the Amoris, I believe. The Cinderella-ish Stride. Yeah, Amoris. So either this or the Elprina. But yeah, this one I rarely find real reasons to go into this in most cases. But this one is just a nice backup if you don't think you're going to hit Vert that often to use her. So all you really need to do is just on hit, bounce your rear guard, call it back out, +3. And then lastly for the G Guardians, we have these. So Nasha, when she's placed, you choose a card, reveal it from your hand, and if the card has the same grade as one of the cards on your field, it gets plus 5,000. So this is just easy 20k shield most of the time. And then Leona, which is the star of this deck in terms of defense, just because when she's placed on rear guard, you can choose a rear guard, bounce it back to your hand. And then if you bounce a card, you have to call the rear guard back out onto the garden circle. But if you do, you just the card you called out gets plus 5,000 shield, and because you bounce stuff, you can also activate a lot of skills, which is where Garnet comes in handy, because by doing this and bouncing something like Emerald or some other skill, you just activate Garnet's ability, so you counter bounce 1, plus 5,000 here. Emerald maybe bounce 2 cards, plus 5,000 here. Vert's or Rosa's skill and late skill like +3, +7, and you just stack a bunch of power on it. It gets really ridiculous. That should be all of the cards. Sorry about that, the camera died, but yeah, just getting back to the end, that should be everything in this deck. It's really solid. Yeah, it's just one of the better decks in my opinion out of the new set, just because it's now defensive. It is able to stack power, which is something really good. It has, like most Bermuda decks, is able to attack, extend, and stuff like that. And it's overall pretty decent at protecting its rear guards and stuff if they need to. It's just a really solid deck overall. One of the more fun decks I've played in a while. And if you guys have any questions or comments and tips or anything like that, let me know in the comments. And make sure to, you know, like and subscribe and all that other jazz. But yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Look forward to the other deck profiles for the other Bermuda decks that we'll probably be putting up soon. Later.